Hello and welcome to iBuzz. I'm your host Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the latest and most exciting entertainment news from showbiz world. In today's episode, we will be discussing Claire Foy and Billie Eilish, followed by a movie review on Interstellar. But first things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Claire Foy was paid an embarrassing salary for the crown that caused uproar. Billie Eilish hits back at critics. Sacha Baron Cohen sues overuse of Borat on US cannabis billboard. Netflix Universal extend and expand animated film licensing deal. And Ertugrul star Engin Altan teases new serial. And now moving to the top story of the day. British actress Claire Foy was lauded far and wide for her role as a young Queen Elizabeth in Netflix's The Crown. However, despite her stellar performance, the actress was initially paid an embarrassing salary, less than her male co-star Matt Smith. To have further discussion on the subject, we have entertainment journalist Andy Jones with us. Andy, welcome to the show. So Andy, the producers acknowledged that Smith did make more due to his Doctor Who fame, but do you think that this is fair reason to give for paying less to a female actor?
No, certainly not, as it's the lead role as well. Claire Foy was playing the Queen, or the young Queen Elizabeth, in those earlier episodes before Olivia Colman took on the role. We heard a few years ago that Claire Foy wasn't going to get backdated pay. Harper's Bazaar ran a piece, I think a couple of years ago when this story first broke, that she wasn't going to get backdated pay. Fortunately, she's now had this backdated pay paid back to her, but apparently she was paid around $10,000 less per episode than Matt Smith, even though she on billboards, in terms of speech, in terms of hours on screen, she clearly had a much more prominent and important role in the production. The producers of the show have made a statement. They say that they're responsible for budgets and salaries. The actors at the time are not aware of who gets what and cannot be held personally responsible for the pay of their colleagues. They say they're united in the fight for fair pay, free of gender bias, etc., etc., etc. But this is clearly a very unfortunate oversight. There was a moment, I think perhaps before the series was announced, that Matt Smith was bigger. He was doing Doctor Who here. He'd done several seasons of Doctor Who, and maybe he was slightly bigger, but you'd perhaps consider in this instance they should have at least been paid the same. And this story's arisen again as we discuss fair pay and issues similar. Right.
The producers have also released a statement where they go that we are absolutely united with the fight for fair pay, free of gender bias, and for a rebalancing of the industry's treatment of women in front of the camera and behind the scenes. But the question is why the actions are taken only when the secrets are public and out on media. Why isn't that there is a proper system to create equality?
You'd absolutely think on an enormous production like this that there's somebody checking the bottom line, that people are aware of who's on what salary, of how this might be perceived, that somebody couldn't have had a conversation with Claire and said, look, we think there's been a small mistake here, we really want to correct this before it goes public. The story broke in Newsweek sort of, I think 2 years ago. Harper's Bazaar followed it up that she wasn't going to get this back pay. And now we're talking about it still sort of 3 years on from when it broke, and it's perhaps not been very well handled, it's not been swiftly handled, and I don't think one of the stars of the show has been made to feel particularly important.
Right. And Andy, what could be the possible reason, in your opinion, behind this hesitation in presenting their own offers by the actresses themselves? Is it that they are convinced they won't be paid what they demand in the industry at the first place?
I think one of the huge difficulties is so many of these money meetings are obviously very personal. I think a lot of the actors, actresses aren't necessarily present when these meetings take place or these phone calls take place. It's done between their agent and producers. If one agent gets given one fee, there's not necessarily any understanding that another agent is getting a different fee or a same fee, particularly as producers are under no obligations under British law to declare who's earning what. I think the difficulty becomes when you've got one star who's perhaps had a slightly bigger career, or at least more prominent career, Matt Smith, not saying that Claire Foy hasn't had great roles before The Crown, and they're in a slightly smaller role than the lead role. I think when you've got an actress who has had a great career like Claire Foy, but perhaps hasn't had a role that's had, that BBC pick that Doctor Who has, I think it's quite difficult balancing those things. I think, also perhaps saying that these sort of embarrassing salary, I mean, she would have still been paid an incredible amount, and there's women who are struggling in far worse positions than her in the world and suffering far greater gender pay balances than her in the world. I think it's a great shame you got a wonderful flagship British programme like this, and we're arguing about fair pay, because I think Britain, whilst we've got a huge amount to go on that, I think we do an awful lot right, but I think it's obviously something that's been allowed to fester. It certainly hasn't been handled very well, and hasn't been handled quickly and cleanly. And if they just said at a point during production, and let's face it, there's many months of production, if they'd said, look, Claire, we've made a small mistake here, we need to fix this, we wouldn't have any of this. And then of course they've then resisted the initial calls to pay back the money, and then it's dragged on, and then now we're in this position where we're still talking about it.
Right. So Andy, moving to our next story of discussion, Billie Eilish hits back at critics, where they said that she is in her flop era, but her statement in reply seems to be very surrendering to the haters. What do you think of that?
I mean, look, it's been a very difficult time for Billie Eilish. Her successful debut LP, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, was critically acclaimed. Everybody loved that album. It absolutely launched her as a stellar star. She's had a very difficult time lately. She had to apologise for a racist slur she used in a TikTok video, an older TikTok video from many years ago. And there's been a lot of discussion about whether her new album, which has been a little while in the making, will be as successful as her first. A TikTok video appeared in a close-up shot where her new song NDA was played, and the words, "Is it just me or Billie in her flop era, like why does she suck so much now," floated above her head. And so Billie Eilish responded to this. She wrote, literally all I see on this app, "Eat my dust, I'm bigger than you." I'm having to paraphrase what she said because she used quite a sweary word, but she basically said that I'm bigger and better than you.
Right, and Billie had been going through some therapy sessions, and she stated that her new lyrics are inspired by those sessions. So do you think that this time she kind of failed to entertain fans according to their choice, and she came up with what she wanted to do this time?
Yeah, I mean, people always talk about the difficult second album, and this is definitely that sort of case. If an artist is going through therapy, and she's had a huge amount to move through since she became very, very famous very, very quickly, I think that's natural. She says in a statement, she says that she's going through therapy at the moment, and some of the conversations that come up in therapy, they're revolutionary to her, and she wants to talk about them all the time, and that's what she's really into at the moment. And naturally, these sort of things are going to be picked up in her lyrics. These are themes that are going to feature on her new album, and we very much look forward to hearing it. I mean, I think people are saying that she's in a flop era on the basis of maybe little sneak peeks of songs that have come out. It's not the entirety of the album. I always felt like Billie Eilish's work needs perhaps a second listen sometimes. So I'm not looking to write her off just yet.
Right, and Andy, this trend of immediate and direct bashing on social media has affected many artists and their productivity as well. Public opinions have become a game changer, and for artists' career. Now, what do you think? How much value these opinions hold, and do artists really need to pay attention to these comments in order to improve?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at Billie Eilish as someone who's admitted that she's going through therapy at the moment. So clearly she's going through something that she needs to work on mentally, and we wish her all the best with that. And it's clearly social media, it gives you this endless crescendo of background noise where people are talking about you, they're saying negative things about you, they're saying positive things about you. And we talk about the 15 minutes of fame. Well, you get even less time now. People get bored of you very quickly people demand that amazing song that you released just last week. Where's the new one? Where's the new one? You know, if you ever put Rihanna, for instance, into any social media, it's where's Rihanna's new album? Where's Beyonce's new album? You're not allowed at all. You don't even get to rest on your laurels. You barely get your laurels in the first place. Yes. And people are demanding this new track, new material, and then heaven forbid you rush something out and it isn't quite as good. Then you're a flop, you're rubbish, you're so over, you're dead, etc., etc. And the pressure is enormous. And the pressure isn't just, you know, perhaps years and years ago in the days of rock and roll, you could disappear into a house in the country, make some music, spend years on it. Now, not only then, you've got to stay in social media, you've got to keep people updated, you've got to have great pictures on your Instagram, you've got to look good, you've got to be saying the right things. And then it's, why aren't you talking about, you know, some political movements happening at the moment? Why aren't you talking about fair pay? Why aren't you talking about Black Lives Matter? Where are you on this? And people will dig up something you said sort of 5 years ago and take it out of context. It's a very, very difficult tightrope to walk. And I feel like the more you try and play the game, the more the game plays you. And I think sometimes for a young, so Billie Eilish's sake, it can be better to almost step up from it and take a moment and just focus on your music. Because ultimately, whatever she says and does on social media, if her next hit is an absolute banger, then people will talk about that.
Absolutely. Andy, thank you very much indeed. Great discussion.
No problem. Thank you so much.
That was Andy Jones. And now moving to other story details of the day. Sacha Baron Cohen sues overuse of Borat on U.S. cannabis billboard. The billboard features the fictional Kazakh journalist promoting cannabis sold by Solar Therapeutics, with both thumbs up alongside the words "It's nice," globally recognized as the character's catchphrase. According to a court documents, the British actor is seeking damages of at least $9 million for alleged copyright infringement and false advertisement. It was written by Baron Cohen's lawyer in the complaint that by use of the billboard, the defendants falsely have conveyed to the public that Mr. Baron Cohen has endorsed their products and is affiliated with their business. Baron Cohen's lawyer said that the actor had never used cannabis and did not believe that the recreational drug was a healthy choice. Netflix and Universal Film Entertainment Group are extending an agreement that will give the streaming giant exclusive rights in the U.S. to the media company's animated feature films. The pact is a multi-year licensing deal and guarantees that the streamer will have access to films involving the Minions, Shrek, and much more. This new agreement builds upon Netflix's pre-existing Illumination output deal with Universal to now including DreamWorks Animation. The popular Turkish actor Engin Altan has been teasing his new role for quite a while and took to Instagram to drop a second trailer for the historical drama in which he will once again be seen essaying the character he played Ertugrul in the smash hit Turkish series. Barbaroslar is reportedly based on the 15th century story of Pasha and his brothers who secured Ottoman dominance over the Mediterranean region owing to their naval prowess. And that is it from our newsroom. We will be right back after a quick short break, bringing you a review on Interstellar. Welcome back. In this segment, we will be reviewing the 2014 sci-fi movie Interstellar. When Earth becomes uninhabitable in the future, a farmer and ex-NASA pilot, Joseph Cooper, is tasked to pilot a spacecraft along with a team of researchers to find a new planet for humans. Directed by Christopher Nolan, this 2014 blockbuster made $701.8 million on box office. To review the movie, we're joined by TV presenter Jean Paul. Jean, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Nosheen, for having me.
So Jean, hands down, another Christopher Nolan masterpiece that leaves you surprised with the epic fiction presented in this movie.
I was absolutely blown away by Interstellar. I couldn't believe that you could combine the three things that you need to make a movie, an epic movie. You need a great story, you need great visuals, and you need a great sound soundtrack.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jean, there is a statement, unless you are well versed in the physics of wormholes, don't expect to understand the intricacies of interstellar science. What is your take on that?
Well, I can agree a little bit with that, Nosheen, because I had no understanding or experience of wormholes before I watched the film. Apart from the odd interview I'd seen with Stephen Hawkins, God rest his soul. But I did do a little bit of research after I watched the film, which was quite interesting. And I found out I wasn't alone. Many people researched the ending and also what are wormholes at the end of the film. So yes, I think you do need to do a little bit of research if you're not privy to what a wormhole is, but it's fascinating stuff, really is.
Absolutely. And of course, one cannot go wrong with Matthew McConaughey, absolutely heart-winning performance. But can we talk about the child star Mackenzie Foy's performance here? I mean, what are your thoughts on her role and the way she performed it?
I think her role was, it was a tear-jerking performance, I think. The way she handled the relationship with her father, and actually both children, not just her, but the way she handled the relationship with her father was, it really did tug at your heart when you could see how much she didn't want her dad to leave. And I think she handled it very, very well. I mean, she's definitely a superstar in the making. What a performance, man.
Right. And Christopher Nolan is, of course, known for not settling for less. And so for the music, Hans Zimmer was chosen to do the job. How did you find the music overall?
Well, Nosheen, I saw this film in the cinema, and I'm a film buff. I do love a good film, and I went to watch it again because Zimmer in the film, just the use of the church organ style backing all the way through the film, the cornfield chase, also when they lost the spaceship and they were trying to reconnect with the spaceship after Matt Damon had blown it up.
Yes.
The music just took you into a different part of the universe. Zimmer's got an amazing way of writing music, but the way it worked out in space, which is so empty and scary and devoid of all life, really, really made the film, for me, so integral. I was lost in the music. It was incredible.
And Anne Hathaway was also incredible. She was remarkable throughout the movie. What is your take on her role?
Yeah, I mean, again, a superb actress. I give credit to all of the actresses and actors in that film. They really got into the mode. They really got into the mood. And it wasn't just the accuracy of their acting. It was the emotional depth you felt when they were dealing with an issue of the extinction of the human race. I mean, knowing that the human race was coming to an end, there's a bit more in the way that you act, in that you have to depict that to the audience. And I think they did a smashing job. They really brought you into the concept.
Yes, and very much unlike other sci-fi movies, this is a thickly sci-fi movie, but there is a blend of emotions that goes side by side, which makes the movie, stand out of all the other sci-fi movies.
Yeah, definitely. It's, as I said to you, the sci-fi element, the story, and the accuracy of the sci-fi. I mean, for example, many sci-fi movies have spaceships making noise in space, which is completely inaccurate. There is no noise in space because space is a vacuum. And Interstellar stayed very much in line with that. So you saw the beauty of movement in silence. And the way that the actors supported that with the story behind it.
True.
Absolutely incredible. Really, really good film.
True. Jean, now there is a question that why wasn't Interstellar nominated for the best movie in Oscars? And the only one reason which is given is the Academy does not like sci-fi films or films that are so complex that they cannot be understood easily by the masses. Do you think this could be the reason? I mean, do you agree with this?
Yeah, I don't agree with the reason for not giving the award, but I agree that that is a reason why sometimes awards are not given. If you look at a film like, for example, I think it was Gravity, a few years ago with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, two well-known actors, actresses, and the story was not complex at all. And that, you know, got nominated because it was, you know, a very good film.
Yeah.
But Interstellar, in my personal opinion, was so much deeper on so many more levels. You know, the music, the atmosphere, the implication that we will have no human race at the end of this. So what are we going to do? Tying into so many current issues that we have, you know, ecologically on the planet now. You know, I think you'd have been doing so much of a better job to promote that to the planet. But it was overlooked in that category, I think, as you well say, maybe because of the complexity.
Yes.
But sometimes I think we should leave the complexity to one side and see the greater good. This would have been a great film for the world to have a full awareness of.
Yes. Occasionally, the time-bending storyline starts to feel like it's stretching time for viewers as well. Did you at any point feel something like that while watching this 2.5-hour-long movie?
Not at all. Not at all. I've watched some movies that are 2 hours, that are 3 hours. I've watched Marvel films that are nearly 3 hours. I mean, Endgames, you know, after Infinity Wars, was the conclusion of the Marvel saga.
And
that was about, you know, that was a very long movie, but you were engaged all the way through. Black Panther, again, a long film. I felt that this film, it wasn't too long a film, but there were some parts, because maybe you didn't understand exactly the science behind it, may have left you a bit daunted in some moments. And that may have made it feel a little bit long in some segments, like the end scene where we weren't too sure what was happening on the timeline. So I think it's not so much the length of the film, it's you not being sure about what's happening in a particular moment, and that maybe extends the time in your mind.
True. And John, in your opinion, does the violence in the movie seem less upsetting when it is man versus nature instead of man versus man?
Oh, that's a very good question, Nosheen. I think violence on any level is catastrophic to us as human beings. You know, whether it's a volcano, you know, whether it's the sea, whether it's man on man. I think the only thing is, obviously, with human beings, we have a choice. You know, unless you're defending your home, you have a choice as to a violent act, whereas nature quite often has lots of movement, and what seems like a violent act in nature, or a hugely energetic act of nature, is quite often there are underlying elements going on that we don't always understand.
Right. Now coming back to Matthew McConaughey, I mean, his character was something that, you know, keeps you hooked to the movie. It's about making choices, difficult choices, not for yourself or your family, but for the entire humanity. About his acting skills, there is no second opinion, but the way he performed this role, what is your thought on that?
Well, you know, prior to this, I wasn't really a McConaughey fan. You know, prior to this film, I wasn't really a fan of him. I'd seen him in, I think, A Time to Kill, where he was a lawyer, and I think, you know, a couple of other films, but I wasn't a huge fan of his. So I went into this film with very little expectation from Matthew at all. And I must admit that I fell in love with the guy after this film, because his delivery of being a father, of being a scientist, of being someone who cares about humanity, you know, all the way through, his tears when he saw his daughter and his, you know, growing up, and he heard about his dad's death, his tears, I actually felt, and with Hans Zimmer in the background, very powerful concoction to make you feel a lot. And he really did deliver that very, very well. And the ending, of course, where he saw his own daughter, who was a lot older than him, it's come back on the timeline, and he's still the same, and she's like double his age. Again, the way he handled that was so emotional. You know, seeing his daughter dying, it was he delivered an amazing performance. Wonderful actor, And I think he done a cracking job. Yeah, superb.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jean, it was a great discussion. Great to have you for this review. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Nosheen. Take care and see you again soon.
That was Jean-Paul reviewing Interstellar. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.